This podcast is just for fun. It's all fake. Don't believe us. Look, do your own research.
Weird. What is that?
Welcome
To
the
show.
Bam.
All right.
So, this is the first time this happened, right?
Right.
We started recording. We made it 10 minutes in, and we realized we didn't start recording.
So we've been just
So
talking
this is our
to each other.
just just funsies.
It really wasn't out of character. We do that
No.
anyway. But
And luckily we didn't. We were actually kind of struggling to
we
talk through some of the
we
starters.
solved world hunger.
Yeah.
We effectively balanced the national budget.
We did.
And a few other things that we accomplished, and there's no record of it. And
I can't remember well enough to talk about it
what
again.
we talked about. So now, I guess we're back where we started.
Gosh, I cannot believe I did that. So if you didn't notice, it's just Mike and I. We're
Yep.
recording a double episode.
Yep.
And Phil had to go because he's got family in town. Courtney had to go because we talked about shoot. I gave you a really long, really well thought out thank you. So it feels disingenuous to do it the second time now, but I really do appreciate.
Just trust, man. It was.
I really did.
It was so heartfelt.
But
and
one of our listeners, one of our good friends, huge supporter of the show, came and watched the kids so that Courtney could be on for the episode that we recorded that aired I think it'll be last week or 2 weeks ago. We're doubling up because we need to get some episodes backlogged. But she came over so that we could make sure Courtney got included on the earlier episode, but then she had to go, so then Courtney's doing mom duty stuff. And but man, huge shout out, huge thank you so much. I'm not going to mention names or anything like that just in case she doesn't want to be announced on the show. But seriously, huge thank you. We really appreciate it. Short notice because we weren't sure, because sometimes you were able to bring our babysitter,
right?
Sometimes not, and so we reached out. We were just like short notice, just so we can try to get Courtney on one of the two episodes.
Yeah, the normal babysitter's road tripping.
Yeah,
road tripping with mom to visit her brother today. So
good deal. Yeah. Good. So we needed a step in, and she was willing to. She literally just basically dropped what she was doing and came over. So
that was a really
awesome.
good thank you for a redo. I'm impressed.
Good. I thanked you twice now. The other one's just in the atmosphere. Oh, man. And now I already opened my drink, so you don't get the drink so well.
We did discuss that, though. We talked about how the Monster, like unrecorded, we talked about how Monster cans have a little something special with them. They just, the crack on them is so, like, in your face. Like, there's no secret opening a Monster. Like I was talking about, I was in a teacher meeting, and they're talking, and I'm trying to be all discreet because I really needed a drink, and I hadn't opened my can before the meeting. So I tried to really just open it up and get that nice little thing, and it didn't happen. It was like,
Do you remember the old, what were they? I think it was like Bush Light commercials.
Oh, yeah, Bush. Yeah, so then everybody looked at me, and so I smiled and gave him a cheers with my can and went about my day.
One of the guys that goes to our church, every once in a while he'll forget to open his energy drink before service. And so like we'll be in the middle of worship and you just hear like and everybody's like, what was that? But
this is God's monster.
But I am offended, not really, but I am offended that everybody always looks at me first. Like He's the one who always drinks the Monster
you're the guy.
in church.
It's like when we're
I'm the energy drink guy.
It's like when we're at, a high school sporting event and somebody starts yelling at the refs. They look right at you, even if you're not talking.
Yeah. My niece called me out doing that in her salutatorian speech.
Yep.
Yeah. I've already heard from some parents that my presence, my lack of presence is noticed.
I'm sure the games are different now that they're all graduated. Don't worry, we'll get another chance. Your boys will get up there.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get another shot at it.
I keep saying I need to go get kicked out of a game just for fun at some point this year, just to do it. Well, now we're going to be going to college games more because we've got some more athletes, and I'll get to get it out of my system then. Yep. But I will notice, I have noticed that as Bennett has gotten older, the less I desire to actually get that passionate.
Right.
Because I don't want him as a kid yelling at the officials.
True.
But
it's different when you got somebody watching you.
Yeah.
My life changed a lot when I realized you were watching me. Because like we talked about this on here, that our difference in age is pretty significant. And it's not ridiculous, but it's significant enough. Like, when I was going through ridiculous teenage years and trying to figure out who I was, I knew that Tanner was watching, and that was a big influencer on making sure I made good decisions and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I made a lot of dumb decisions still, but it was still very much a part of my thought process with your boys and
I know it made a difference when I started having kids and they were, you're almost right in between.
Yeah.
Where their age, my age. Yeah. And so they were like your version of that, because I know they still do. They really look up to you and stuff. So, yeah.
Good. I know I'm weird. Yeah. So I'm probably that weird uncle. I'm not, I know I'm not the cool uncle. I'm the weird uncle.
Okay.
But I'm also not the gets himself into dumb situations uncle.
Okay.
But I used to be that uncle.
Right. It's funny.
In the ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?
That's I even imagine, like, always remember even going to, like, for my birthday when we would go up and go on hikes and play disc golf and just like, it's so much fun. It's just like that's my idea of like getting out and going crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, let's go on a road trip and go on a hike. It's like, it sounds so stupid, but like,
and if we're not,
you have so much
cry laughing by the end of the thing, I mean, every time we all get together, we end up just crying. Even holidays, like, we're just cry laughing. My gut hurts the next day from laughing. Like, I don't know. We're pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. But so let's. Fake energy drink. Show started.
You play a song and there the toink 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 toink. Yep. All right.
Anyway, nobody liked that. But so the first episode, I was talking about how my algorithm has kind of shifted because I'm no longer getting just like the wide array of conspiracies like I used to. I'm getting more like specific things and like deeper things and a lot of politics and stuff like that too. And I'm like actively fighting against the algorithm, and like I'm straight up like, anytime something pops up that's super hyper political, I'm saying not interested in this subject and scrolling past it as fast as I can. And then but I'm my algorithm's broken right now.
My algorithm was, a lot of times it ended up being whatever whatever you happen to talk about on the podcast, all of a sudden would start popping up on my algorithms. But now it's like this weird streamlined thing where it's like science meets philosophy kind of deal. And so it's kind of interesting to ask like ridiculous questions that shouldn't go together, but they do. And that's like the whole stream. And I'm like, this is weird. So I've been sending you a few things, just going, okay, think about this is weird, but think about it.
Right.
You know, but
and so speaking of science, the one starter I do for sure, I have a couple starters we could go, but the one starter I do have for sure is the 7. We currently have 7 comets in our solar system. They just found one like last week.
Right.
And apparently it is going to... So the moment that 3i Atlas no longer is visible and goes behind the sun, that same day, I believe it's either that day or within 24 hours of that, we will be entering into the... I had to look up the term because I wanted to make sure that Phil's mom didn't condemn me for my lack of
for your lack of vocabulary
of knowing the terminology on this. No, she would very politely correct me. So I had to look it up. So a meteorite is when the rock forms from a comet, and it is durable enough to survive and reaches Earth. It is a meteorite. It is a meteor when it enters into Earth's atmosphere, but due to the friction and the heat, it just creates a bright light.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it to, or at that stage, I guess, at that stage, it is just a meteor. It doesn't become a meteorite until it lands. And prior to that, while it's still in space, it is a meteoroid.
Yep.
So we will be entering into the tail of this comet that they just found because it was in like the sun's glare and they couldn't see it.
Right.
Which is crazy because think about how long ago we saw 3i Atlas. They first announced it like months ago.
Yeah.
And
so this thing's like, it must be like traveling in between the sun and the Earth. And that's why we couldn't.
I think something like that. It was like something about the Earth's glare. It wasn't visible or something like that. I can't remember how they explain it, but they did say the sun's glare prevented them from being able to see it.
Yeah.
So the moment that, and so even think of this, so the moment that the 3i Atlas becomes no longer visible because it's behind the sun is the same day that we will be entering into the debris field from this comet.
Yeah.
So as 3i Atlas goes behind the sun, we'll be entering into this debris field. And all of those meteoroids that could have fallen off the rock or have been escaping, whatever, due to the comet heating up because of the sun, whatever, all of the lingo that goes with space talk.
Yeah.
But they're saying that the sheer number could possibly be one of the highest we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah.
Because
and I was even saying that I don't remember ever even hearing about Earth passing through the tail of a comet.
Right. Like this, at least.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so they're saying they're not necessarily worried that a bunch of meteorites will like make it to Earth. They're more concerned about the sheer number of meteors.
Right.
That they're saying the number could be, and they don't even know, but they're theorizing the number could be so high that it almost will turn the night to day. That it will be that bright with the sheer number of meteors falling and heating up, that our atmosphere will just be heated, like just so bright. It'll be like basically like daylight out because of the sheer number.
It'd be like the opposite of when we were at the eclipse and it was just went black.
That was so cool.
You know what I mean? And depending on where you're at on Earth, I suppose you wouldn't even notice because it'd be during the daytime.
Yeah, there's.
So imagine though that it passes on the and it goes through on the dark side of Earth and the light side of the Earth is still lit up, and that, man, I'm just thinking it would be the first time that we know of that the entire Earth would be lit up all at one time.
Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy.
Sounds a little apocalyptic.
Yeah, and I'm looking something up.
So meteor-wise, while you're looking that up, that made me think of there's been a series of videos that popped up on my different algorithms with down in South America, of course, because there's all kinds of alien type things that pop up down there. But apparently there was a meteorite that this guy discovered, and it had like properties of life type stuff, and so in this lab they started studying it and kind of doing tests on it, and then it like stuff started growing out of it, almost like an algae type of deal, and then now it's got like these gelatinous looking like phalanges on it that move.
I've seen that.
And I don't know how real it is, or, if it's doctored or AI or some kind of just, hoax kind of thing. Because there's a lot of hoaxes that come from South America, too. So it's hard to tell. Very much so. But I was like, that is scary.
Yeah, I've seen a few people try to debunk it, saying that it was there was a type of fungus that grows down there that they must have just sprayed.
And even then, I was like, that is a scary looking fungus, because that thing moves.
It's like it's an egg that turns into, but apparently that the fungus or whatever it is, that not the fungus but the alien thing or whatever is growing, and it's taking form and stuff, and was that in Panama that occurred?
I think so. It might have been,
there's currently a weird weather phenomenon where the phenomena the tides there in Panama right now are really weird, because normally by this time at this point I can't remember exactly which way it is, but the warm water begins to come up at the surface, and it kind of creates this warm tide pool in the because Panama, the way it's shaped, it kind of comes out, and there's like this little area between the points,
right?
Almost like a bay, but it's not quite, because it's not as enclosed as a bay should be.
Right.
That's normally warm water, and at this time of year, and it didn't happen, and so it's cold water, and that has never not happened.
There's a lot of weird ocean things happening.
A lot.
So it's not just. I know we're always looking at the skies, but there's a lot of things changing down here too.
Have you seen the snakehead that's moving?
No.
Between the southernmost tip of Chile and Antarctica, there's this spot that looks like it was shoved out mechanically almost. It doesn't look natural. From where the ocean current goes through there, and it kind of builds up this little pattern.
Yeah.
Well, it looks just like a serpent's head. And it has apparently been moving at a alarming pace this last year as well. Now, don't quote me on that one. Look that one up, because I was not prepared to talk about it, so I don't have any of the facts in front of me.
Right.
So I didn't look up whether or not. I mean, no matter what, it's a conspiracy theory, because whatever. But allegedly, it has been moving faster, and it's crazy how much it looks like a serpent's head.
That's crazy.
Let me see where I find it.
We don't worry about facts here. So
yeah, this is all just for fun.
We just throw ideas out there. And
I love that our intro is now the whisper of us just saying the show's just for fun.
Was great.
But it actually dual purposes. Yeah. Because then I get to say everything in this podcast is just for fun. We don't have to do your own research.
It is our disclaimer.
And I don't have to remember to say it every episode anymore.
It is our disclaimer. And I mean, that's the truth. Our research is very whatever we come across. I mean,
it's a week at a time. Yeah. We're not putting a month of research into these topics.
These are just things we're throwing out there, things that we think are interesting.
There we go.
I got the image. You found the snakehead?
Yeah. Look at that.
Right, let me see this thing.
Oh, let me pull it up, just the image. Open image in new tab.
That is weird. What is that?
So it's basically where the current kind of goes through, I believe. But that doesn't look right? But yeah, it kind of creates this weird snakehead thing.
It almost looks like something, when they show images under the ocean where it allegedly looks like a spacecraft landed and slid. Yeah. That's kind of what that looks like. That's weird.
It does.
It's very round on that one side.
Very much so.
Almost unnaturally round.
It almost looks like it was, what it looks like to me, it almost looks like Chile and Antarctica were connected.
Yeah, like a land bridge.
And it looks like somebody came through with like a large ship.
Yeah.
And like it would be a 400-mile wide ship or whatever that is, and just plowed through it.
Yeah.
And left the debris field as the water got deeper.
Interesting.
That's what it looks like to me. But
it's moving, though, you said, right?
Yeah, it's allegedly making its way further and further. If I could find the before and after pictures.
A cloaked alien ship under the water, sneaking
or maybe it is the serpent of the Leviathan.
Yeah, we don't know how big or how exaggerated. If it is exaggerated, how big the Leviathan from those tales is. That's true. Just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
the oceans are kind of crazy deep. Yeah. Crazy deep. There could be all kinds of stuff down there we've never seen.
Well, and then there's that 2 mile wide blob that is moving around. Yeah. That thing's still moving.
Oceans are scary,
dude. Tell you what,
the ocean is that's a scary place.
Well, and if you like think about through theology, kind of getting into the show, this is actually a great transition. So when Jesus cast the evil spirits out of the pig farmer or whatever, it was the village that
right. Yeah, pigs. I remember you talking about that. Yeah,
so he cast them out and they said, "Have you come before your time?" And then they asked him to cast them into the pigs. The pigs immediately go running into the water.
Right.
So there's a theory. I don't necessarily buy into this theory, but there is a theory that the evil spirits aren't necessarily the same things as like demons, and that the evil spirits are the dead Nephilim, that because they were abomination, there's no place for them right now. And so they have to wander around, and they're looking to looking for warm places. And the reason they go into the water is because the Nephilim would have died by the flood. And so the water is their natural dwelling place, not land.
Interesting.
And so the reason that the pigs ran into the water was because the water was the vessel that they would go to.
Yeah.
I've always thought that was weird, though, one way or the other. Why these demons are like, please send us into the pigs, and then they run into the water and drown the pigs. Like, why wouldn't he have just asked them to, like, can you just send us into the water? Like that, you know what I mean? It's just weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't fully grasp. If anybody has a good theory as to why they asked to be put into the pigs and then ran into the water, I'm open to hear that.
I was watching something the other day in passing, and he was a pastor that he does a lot of stuff with like prisons and things like that. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was talking about water and how if we look at water as a symbol in Christianity, it is the symbol of life. It is one of the symbols of life, but is also the symbol for destruction. It's how the world was restarted and
cleansing.
Like and so, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't remember the exact point he was making, but that's interesting that the water was, a significant catalyst in that story with the pigs.
I always kind of think too. I've always wondered why Catholics use holy water. Like, where did they get that?
Yeah. Maybe that might have been the point they were making too, is the purpose of holy water and why it's holy water is that water is designed for destruction, and that and I've heard little side fringe things too, that the water in the floods, that the reason it was able to destroy so many demons and Nephilim and things like that was because it was blessed, and it was basically the entire oceans became blessed water, holy water. I don't know.
Well, and so I used to make the argument that there's nowhere in the Bible that talks about holy water.
Yeah.
And so, whatever. And I was corrected that Numbers 15:17 specifically talks about holy water.
What does it say?
And it just says, then he shall take some holy water in a clay jar and put some dust from the tabernacle floor into the water. And it continues in 18. After the priest has made the woman stand before the Lord, he shall loosen her hair, place in her hands the remainder of offering, a grain offering for jealousy, while he holds the bitter water that brings curse. And kind of goes into explaining that there's a difference between bitter water and holy water. And it's the larger part of the law is concerning the man's suspicion of his wife's unfaithfulness, basically.
Oh, okay. I was wondering because that sounded like some sort of ritual type thing. I wasn't sure what exactly that was. So,
okay. But that does refer to a holy water,
right?
And so there is a scriptural basis for holy water. Somebody
made it up as a thing.
And that challenged me a little bit, and it still haven't really hashed out what I think about it, because I see Jesus using like anointing oil and stuff like that. And so anointing oil makes more sense to me than holy water does. But, if water serves that purpose, you're kind of thinking through it a little bit more, and you bless the water and something evil does come along, how much would they actually hate the blessed, quote unquote, holy water?
Right.
It's an
even to throw some
thought.
Science in there, we've talked about water and the different properties that water have that are beyond just it being a liquid, and it can hold energies and things. Why couldn't it hold a spiritual energy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just a thought, it'd be a good way to suspend that blessing. You know what I mean? So it's not the actual water, it's the blessing that's in there.
Yeah. Well, and on the Exorcist Files, he goes into holy water quite a bit more and talks about there's certain holy waters that's even more blessed or whatever, or different blessings. No, not necessarily more blessed. He actually makes that correction. But they have different blessings because there's water that they use to baptize.
Yeah.
And so once water has been used for baptism, they can then, and they have the holy water that was baptismal water, which has different, anyway, he goes into a lot of the different thought processes. But one thing that I did find out while doing research on holy water is that it actually is an old Jewish, it comes from Jewish time.
Right.
It's not a Christian, it's not a Catholic. The Catholics didn't create it.
Right.
But it did continue from old Jewish traditions, which was to create a blessed water.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But in Catholicism, it's kind of the reminder of baptism, purification, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They use it, but anyway, it's interesting. Yeah, thinking about it. I guess you can just go to your Catholic church and just get holy water. I guess they just hand it out.
Yep.
I was like, that's kind of crazy, but they won't hand out sacraments.
I remember on the Extras Files too, him talking about that it isn't that hard to bless water. You don't have to have any kind of special credentials or anything. You just have to, say a blessing over the water, and it is blessed water. It is holy water. I remember him talking about that. He was talking about he talked about blessing an entire lake one time or something, because I don't remember what was going on, but I remember that in that. I haven't listened to him for a while, but he talked about blessing a whole lake for whatever reason.
So why don't we just bless all the water?
Yeah.
Bless it all. Bless the ocean.
I mean, I'm down.
Sorry, I'm being pessimistic. We essentially do the same thing with oil. We bless. We ask for God's blessing into the oil, and we have a whole episode on anointing oil on the show. If you want to know, you can go back and find that. But it's interesting thinking through I think with most of this, it is very just symbolic.
Right.
But I have recognized, and I do understand because of my beliefs in Scripture, of the significance of like the actual like spiritual implications of it.
Yeah.
And I think that just because something, talking about like even going into like the armor of God, I think that the armor of God is both symbolic as well as literal.
Right.
I think they're in the spiritual world, you're literally putting on like armor. And I wonder how much, so with the like holy water and anointing oil, when you do bless it, right, that you're both creating a symbolic blessing on this earth to help remind you of what God is doing and what God is covering in your life. But then in the spiritual realm, because we don't fully understand or see the spiritual realm,
right,
if there isn't actual like things occurring with that in the spiritual realm.
It's interesting. So in my weird new algorithms that are super scientific and stuff, one of the things that came up was looking at science through the lens of everything being on a spectrum rather than being black and white.
Right.
Just everything being, because light, obviously they've built it into a spectrum, and part of the explanation they made was we've got 7 colors, but they're not split up by a line. It's an entire spectrum.
Right.
And we give it 7 colors just to simplify things.
Yeah,
but there are billions of colors, but we separate it into those 7 colors because it's easier for our brains to wrap our minds around it.
Yeah.
Sight is kind of the same way seeing things. We can't see every... spectrum is, we see those 7 colors and those combinations, but there's other colors that our eyes and our brains can't comprehend. We can't see them.
Yeah.
Sound is the same way. There's sounds that dogs can hear that we can't hear.
Right.
It's on a spectrum.
Even like you lose some because like kids can hear more frequencies.
There's certain frequencies they play that a kid can hear it. Even like people in their 20s can hear it, but somebody in their 30s and 40s,
and they can almost like,
you can't hear it anymore.
Based off of your age can determine like based off of what you can hear for most people.
So what if spirituality is also on that, putting spirituality into science? What if our spirituality is on a spectrum like that too? So it's not, black and white, good versus evil. It's not, this is something I can touch. This is for after I die. What if it's an entire spectrum? And like, that's why sometimes we see things, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
There's a spectrum of spirituality and blessings. And, what if that blessing and that holiness in that water is actually tangible? It's an actual thing. We just can't conceive it because it doesn't fit within the spectrum of our understanding. You know what I mean? That's
one of the things I think that when Adam and Eve would have been kicked out of the garden or whatever, I think that one of the things that they lost was, and sin, one of the things that sin causes us is to lose our ability to see into the spiritual realm.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Pre-sin, they could see the cherubim, or the cherub. But but
one a lot of stories of Adam and Eve walking around with God in the garden, like he was just another being with them. You know what I mean? I've read a lot of interpretations like that, and then that got taken away, and I don't know that it was taken away like I'm not here anymore as much as it was now I'm not part of your understanding. Yeah, and that's kind of like Cain. He sent him away, but I can't imagine that God was like, oh, I'm just no longer with you. Have you ever seen that little fringe thing of that Cain, that Bigfoot is Cain? Yeah. That he was doomed to walk the earth. Some of that, I was like, and he just got bigger and hairier and so apparently and darker. Apparently it's tied to some racial things too. Like I've heard that it's tied to some racist type stuff too. So it's tied to some racist stuff. And it's also got its foothold where it was created was in the Mormon Church. Yeah, I saw that. The Mormon Church invented that connection too. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I came across that one in passing. I was like, that's interesting theory. Because they claim that he was doomed to roam the earth for all eternity, not just. Yeah. Yeah. Where would you hang out if you were doomed to roam the earth forever? Where would you hang out at? Forever? I would not be hanging out in the woods in the Appalachians. You're not in the Appalachians, no. Dude, that'd be tough. I'd be umbrella drinking it on a tropical island somewhere, pretty sure.
See, I like that. I like the idea of that. But I do really, really, really like the redwoods.
Yeah.
I really like the redwoods.
That's nice.
I love and just the climate there, because it's not high humidity,
right?
But it is high rain.
Yeah. So
it is humid, but it's like it doesn't feel like you're in Florida or like Missouri. It's
here's another thought too. If Cain has to walk the earth, and this idea comes from vampires, so this sounds really weird. This is a weird connection, but like the idea of somebody posted one time I saw, they were like, well, how come vampires in the movies and stories, how come they're always like wealthy and they own land and they're very powerful people? And they're like, well, if you're on Earth for hundreds of years, you have time to get it right. Wouldn't Cain? I don't think Cain would be just naked living in the woods somewhere eating rabbits. Like,
no, he would be
wealthy.
He would be pulling strings. He'd be working. And if he's like, and I guess
interesting.
It would depend on whether he was repentant or not.
Yeah, that's true. Depending on who,
because
who he wanted to be.
If he decided he wanted to continue down the path of evil, he'd be pulling strings. He'd be working with the demons full blown. Right. On the other end of the spectrum, if he was repentant, then I think he would be working towards fixing.
Yeah. Well, condemnation comes with redemption.
Problems. Yeah.
Those are some big words. I think it should anyway. I don't know if it does or not. I don't speak for that kind of thing. But I would think that condemnation, you'd have a chance to redeem yourself.
I would think he's human.
Yeah.
So I think he would have the same opportunity as any other human.
Yeah.
I think Judas had opportunity.
Yeah.
I think had Judas not hung himself, I think Jesus, there would have been the same opportunity. He would have been
right
there, because even literally selling out Christ it wasn't a sin that's too big for Jesus.
Yeah,
because Jesus wasn't too small to cover that sin. It's just he just chose not to see the thing out. Right. And that's the crazy thing about Judas. So Judas saw that what he did was wrong and felt the remorse, but he still wasn't allowing himself to see how loving Jesus is.
Well, and do you think Judas saw his place in the story? His place in like fulfilling prophecies?
Right.
Like he was a cat. Like without that betrayal, that prophecy was not fulfilled.
He doesn't. Yeah,
it had to happen.
Right. And
I wonder if he knew that. I wonder if he ever came to that realization. I don't know.
I mean, he probably does now.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah.
But actually, but how cool would his story have been had he not given up on the process?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Because Peter, denies him 3 times.
Yeah.
Jesus called him out. He felt so ashamed. He's going back fishing.
Right.
And Jesus comes back and is like, dude, like, give me a hug, buddy. Come on.
Yeah. So talking about demons.
So I wonder if he'd have stayed alive if he would have.
I wonder. Yeah. So, because you and I have talked about this a lot, the demonology and psychology kind of connection, and how much demons and possession and things look like mental health issues, and vice versa. They are very, very interchangeable, and we've talked about a lot that maybe they're not as separate as people try to make them.
Yeah,
and so I was thinking about this on the way up here. I was like, who's to say that a mental health issue that someone has, because a lot of those mental health issues come from chemical changes, they come from addiction, they come from trauma, all those things. Who's to say that it's not demon intervention, demonic intervention coming in, setting up that path?
Yeah.
Setting up that path and then just stepping back and watching. You don't have to be possessed for it to be demonic. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
Thinking about
it. This is so. Just with the the forefront of mental health and how it has been really being normalized in America.
Yeah.
Like seeking help, getting counselors, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot more open of a discussion than it used to be 15 years ago. Oh,
definitely. Like you didn't talk about it back in the day. No way.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I also see that the risk of over counseling in the sense of like when you begin to over focus on something,
right? Something
that, and I was listening to it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, a lady that was talking about how when you go to a counselor like multiple times a week and you talk about the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, that's something that could have had an only like on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 3 impact in your life. Because you've talked about it and discussed it so much, it now is becoming a 10 level impact in your life and changing your personality because of the focus on it. And that over counseling on something can actually cause as much harm as not counseling.
Yeah.
And not that, and again, very careful, not that the solution isn't 0, but the opposite of 0 isn't 100. That there is a healthy point of focus where we do need to talk about our problems. We do need to focus on them, but we also do need to, take our thoughts captive and think of, as Paul says in Philippians, think of things that are good, think of things that are righteous, think of things that are holy, and allow your brain to be given over to those good things. And I think that sometimes, like you're talking about with demons, if they come in and they're changing your thought and they're like, think of this negative, think of this negative, think of this negative, think of this negative. Eventually, your brain is now hardwired to think of the negative, and they could just literally step back, not even influencing you more, but you're already so down that path of thinking negative that you're stuck there, and they're not even influencing you. They've moved on.
Right.
They're working on the next person.
Yeah. So, and little trade secret with counseling and therapy.
Yeah.
Because not only am I a counselor or and therapist, is it I grew up with all the trauma and issues that I was in counselors all the time, and
same.
I tell the story. I tell a lot of stories when I'm working with brand new counselors and things. That counseling it only works when the person being counseled is open to it. It's very much like religion. It's very much to, you can't counsel somebody in their spirituality and Christianity if they're not open to it.
Right. Yeah.
It does no good at all. And counseling is the same way. Counseling is the same way. And a lot of people say, well, counseling didn't work for me. And I'm like, well, that's your fault. That's not the counselor's fault. For me as a kid, counseling didn't work because I figured out the game. I figured out what they were doing because I'm hyper, I'm very hyper analytical. I figured out the game and I would flip it on them, and they weren't quite sure where to go from there. And we ended up talking about the same thing over and over again instead of healing and fixing and talking about all the things we needed to do. And so when I became a counselor, that was one of my big goals, was not to be that rigid and not be that person that, and to understand the fact that if they don't want to be there, then I have no interest in making them be there. Like court ordered counseling.
Yeah.
Like you're going to make me go get counseling. Right, like that makes zero sense to me.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
It'd be like going court ordered Sunday church. That would be, can you imagine if people were court ordered to go to church, how little they would get done in there?
It would be such a distraction for the people that wanted to be there.
Yeah. And that's what happened. That's my personal belief on it. I think change can be made.
Yeah.
I think you talk about like people that minister in like prisons and things. They're not welcomed by a lot of the people there. But you can create that change. And I think counselors can do the same thing. Yeah. I think you and I, we've talked about it 100 times. We have the same job. We just attack it different.
Yeah. Very much so. Well, and I always kind of joke about that I get the best of both worlds in ministry.
Yeah.
Because I see the life change that youth pastors see with kids that get it and get on board and actually like take it serious and like want it, desire it. It's not just Now, all of a sudden, it's no longer what mom and dad want. It's like what I want in my life. Yeah. But I also get to experience like the maturity of like everybody that's here wants to be here.
Yeah.
So mom and dad didn't require somebody, they make the choice to come. So everybody is on the same page.
Right. Yep.
And so I get to see the best of both worlds. So the cost is I then have to raise my own budget and be a missionary rather than, permanent job. But I get to see it, just kind of joking, but,
it's true.
But it is. I get to see that seriousness, and I always kind of explain. Like we go to this big conference called Winter Conference every year, and I always explain it to our students as, like when you were a kid and mom and dad made you go to like youth camp, and how it was good, but there was a lot of distractions and all that stuff.
Right.
Now imagine how cool that would have been if there were 0 distractions.
Yeah.
That's what Winter Conference is.
Right.
It's still fun. It's still a good time, but everybody's there has made the choice and has made the sacrifice to pay their own money more often than not, or they've had to ask mom and dad for help to go.
Right.
They've made the decision. They've made the commitment. And so they have a little bit of skin in the game. And so they're there for a reason. And it's so life-changing.
Right.
And that's what, it's for me.
Right.
And that's where I went to 0 to 60 so fast, was because of just the experience I had at a winter conference. But as we talked about even on the last episode we recorded, how there were so many steps that led to that point. And I can see breakthroughs in counseling kind of being along the same way of like, there's steps and things that happen in your life that maybe a counseling session can lead to big breakthroughs, but there's still going to need to be that process outside of the counseling session, those small steps you're having to take in your life.
Yeah, there's a huge percentage. So like research-wise in the counseling world, there's a huge percentage of the catalyst for change. We call it the catalyst for change. The majority of the time, that catalyst is an outside. It doesn't happen in the counseling room. Yeah. Like the counselor maybe points them in a direction, but them making that discovery, them making that choice to build and change and do whatever they need to do happens outside of that room. It's that the actual catalyst for change isn't in that room. Sometimes it is, but most times it's not. It's opening their eyes for the potential. It's listen, be vigilant, keep your eyes open, and watch for these signs. Kind of deal. Very similar to Christian counseling and things.
Right. So I think the challenging part is when does I think this is something that in the religious world maybe we've begun to become too afraid of when does the it's a mental health thing end, and where does this is a demonic influence begin? And I think that because of the problem, and here's my theory is part of the reason it's so difficult is because I think that if I was a demon, if I want to create as much evil as I possibly could, I'm going to attack someone who, let's say, had a life experience that drives them towards depression a little bit more than the average person. Right. They had that life experience. I'm going to attack that person over the guy who had a really good life and sees the world very positively.
Yeah, they're a little closer to the edge.
Yes, exactly. It's a little easier target. Yeah. Yep. And I can cause more damage by focusing on the 100 people with my time who are close to depression than the one who isn't, because of how much more time it would take to affect the people who don't have that. Yeah. So if being depressed makes you, and again, if being depressed makes you more susceptible to a demonic attack, now we're seeing regularly that line get blurred and we don't know where one ends and one begins. Right. But we know that there is depression because life experiences, tendencies, pattern. Yeah. It points towards mental health, but counseling can only do so much good before spirituality needs to come into play to affect the the demonic.
And if you ask me, a spiritual battle is a psychological battle. It is not it is not a physical battle. You know, fighting demons, it doesn't happen with, you know, necessarily. Eventually it can't, like demonic possession. There's stories of it affecting their body physically, and they're physically sick, and there are sores and broken bones and things like that. But I think just talking demonic influence, not necessarily full-blown possession. Demonic influence is very, very psychological. It's a lot of trickery. It's a lot of deception. Yeah. It's a lot of you know, those little whispers with no voice, you know, in your ear saying, you know, remember that time when this happened, or remember when somebody said this, or, you know, it's those little whispers, those little. I don't want to call it a voice in your head, because I don't think that's what it is.
It's not. Yeah, I feel like it's an outside influence.
Feeling. It's just that kind of, I don't know. Yeah. It's those self-doubts and those things that just creep up on you, and
it might create a voice in your head.
Yeah. And you know, I kind of think it's you know, it's when it takes over. Like, we all have those thoughts. Yeah. They all pop up, but when it takes over and that's your only thought, it's kind of the difference between like people who drink casually and people who are alcoholics. Yeah. The alcoholism, it takes over every aspect of their life. Yeah. Everything revolves around it. And I think a lot of things can happen like that, you know.
You know, with saying that that it's more in the mental aspect of things, I think is really interesting too, because I think the biggest thing that demons try to do when they are trying to manipulate, and they are trying to, I was going to go back. Let me come back to this really quick. Yeah. I was going to say, that's why I like the term demonized and not necessarily like possessed, oppressed, and all that other thing. Yeah, because again, I think demon, quote unquote, possession, I think it's all on a spectrum. Yeah. I don't think it's as cut and dry. I don't believe that it's as cut and dry as there's a demon in you who's taking over or there's not. I think that there is a wide spectrum of demonization. Yep. Back in the old church, back when Christianity first began and the church was first like getting established, they used to believe that every person who got baptized needed to be go through a spiritual like cleansing and cast the demons out of them. An exorcism, basically. They believed that you got baptized and you needed an exorcism immediately, and then you were quote unquote like clear. Yeah. But it was practice of them to quote unquote exorcise the demons out every time somebody gave their life to Christ, just to make sure they weren't dealing with any demons. Right. Interesting. Like, it's and that was the early church, you know, right. First few hundreds of the years of the church. But I think the main thing that demons and anybody who is demonized, the main thing that's being attacked is identity. I think identity is the number one thing that they attack. They try to get you to influence you to try to put your identity into things that can't bring fulfillment into your life.
It's interesting. So, have you ever watched Jim Carrey talk about his journey? If you ever get a chance to watch Jim Carrey talk about his journey, when he's very young, he's talking about, man, I can't wait to get to the point where you can't walk down the street and people aren't recognizing me. That's going to be a good time. And then when he did interviews later on in life, most recently, he talks about in life, you spend so much time creating this character around yourself, this coding around yourself, and you create this character that you forget who you are. And he talks about, I was successful to the point where I could buy whatever I wanted, I could get whatever I wanted, and he said I hated who I was. And in order to, then I had to shed that shell and find who I was. I think that's kind of what you're talking about. You can be successful, and we tend to think that when we're demonized or there's demon influence that we end up in the gutters and having a terrible life. But that's not true. You can be absolutely top of your game, reach all your goals, and realize this isn't who I am.
Right.
You know, this character that I created is who's doing all this, and here I am just in the shadows, just existing, you know. So yeah.
You know, it's actually kind of funny that you talk through that, because that's something that I've really been on a journey of discovering over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
In Chi Alpha, with the ministry that I run, you know, we had a point where we were huge, like hundreds of students. And COVID, and there were some things around COVID, which if you know us, you know the story. If you don't need to know. But COVID really just kind of put the lid on the coffin a little bit. Our ministry our numbers just dropped.
Yeah. Because you're a very in-person.
It's very personal.
Very organic, you know.
The relationships and everybody became afraid. Yeah. And it was hard to reach students because students weren't leaving their dorms.
Yeah.
Students then were struggling with depression at a higher rate. Students then were dropping out at a faster rate.
Right.
Students then didn't trust us as much. Students, and you know, there was a lot of things that happened during that like 3-4 year period where college ministry all over took a hit.
Yeah.
Now there were some ministries that happened to be planting during the same time, and they saw success. And I'm sitting here going like, I'm so confused as to what's going on. And I really felt like God kind of challenged me, and what was going on, what was happening was I was becoming so obsessed with who wasn't there.
Right.
Who's missing. We need more. We need people. We need more people. We need, you know, there were so many things. It's like I became so obsessed with who wasn't there that it became more about that than just loving the students who were there.
Right.
And from that, I started questioning, like, do I even enjoy doing college ministry anymore? Do I enjoy doing that? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this quote unquote hell? Like it became really difficult for me.
Right. Yeah.
And because it was more about the what ifs and the what we had and the, you know, the lost memories and stuff.
Yeah.
And over the last year, and Bryson, the things that happened with our son when he was born, and some of the PTSD that I had with that, even just
and I saw that on you too, because there was a lot of times I was like, you know, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be who he is, and you know, medical things happen, and you know, we're here for it, and head held high, and it's gonna be okay. And I saw it on your face, and I saw it just, I don't know, I almost saw it like in your soul that, you know, you were feeling kind of defeated with the whole thing, and it's tough.
It's tough, and it's hard when you are so powerless.
Yeah.
And so what was happening, and just, I guess for sake of just getting a little real right now, you know, very early on, it was, it's not that I didn't love Bryson or anything like that, but it was just, I was so afraid of what ifs.
Right.
What if this, what if that, because my biggest fear as a parent almost came to fruition, you know, and those what ifs then weren't allowing me to just freely be his dad anymore. I was no longer just Bryson's dad. It was more of what if this, what if that,
well,
what if
those
what
little,
if
those
this,
little whispers that the doubt that creeps in, and things like, and no amount of me, or, you know, I know Beth was there encouraging and looking things up and calling people she knew in the medical field and reassuring and everything else. No amount of that was quieting those whispers that were happening. You know, I see that.
And it was just, and looking back, I can tell you now that it was just PTSD from it. From what I witnessed in the few hours he was here in Chadron before he got flight for life. It was PTSD from that experience. And I had to heal. But it was intermixing with the religion, because like your faith is a part of everything,
right?
So my faith is now in this, and then but as a pastor, my job is now tied to this because my job is faith. My job is dependent upon my faith.
Yeah.
And if now I'm in this weird place with my faith, as well as with, you know, my relationship, dealing with PTSD, and that's now affecting my faith, and all this is kind of coming, everything's just creating this crazy storm in my life.
Yeah. And
I had this moment where, oh man, why do we cry when we record shows?
Phil's not here. Phil's our comedy guy. We get too serious. You know what though? We need serious.
Yeah.
We need serious every once in a while because sometimes life is, you know, life's not all jokes and laughs all the time.
But yeah, I was praying, and I had conversation with Courtney, and we're starting to kind of see what's going on, and just my behavior was off, and the way I was treating everybody was off.
Yeah.
And we just kind of got to this moment where I felt God kind of just say, like, hey, like, just be his dad.
Yeah.
But then pretty quickly after that, I felt like God really just kind of assured me and just like say, like, hey, why did you enjoy, like, what about Chi Alpha did you enjoy?
Yeah.
Like, what made you want to do this? Because yes, I've called you, but you still had to decide to want to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, because I loved spending time with students and just loving them.
Right.
And sharing Jesus with them, but like just loving them. Like I enjoyed, you know, just that aspect of it.
Right.
And I felt like God said, you've become so concerned with the structure of the ministry that you've completely lost sight of the realities of the ministry. The structure become more important than the stories.
Right.
Than the relationships.
Right.
And when the structure becomes more important than the relationships, that's where the enemy has a foothold.
Yeah.
Because your ministry is not big enough. Your ministry is not strong enough. Your failure. You were bad at this. Yeah. And again, this goes back to, and I'm bringing this full circle on this, my identity became the structure of the ministry rather than in Christ. My structure, my identity became the fear of the what ifs with my son rather than just being his father.
Right.
And the identity really did and I think that the enemy, his number one trick is challenging identity.
Yeah.
Even going back to, like, if you wanted to go all the way back to even just what the Bible talks about with Adam and Eve, he was challenging the identity of these guys of being children of God. Well, surely this.
Yeah.
Surely you want more than what, like, God's
right.
He's hiding things from you.
Right.
And I was just preaching a sermon on Tuesday, and I was talking about how, you know, like, what's your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert?
Yeah.
Pie.
Pie? Like, what's your favorite pie?
Dude, legit any kind of pie.
Okay.
I'm not.
Let's
picky.
say, well,
if you got 4 different pies, I'm having a piece of each of them.
Okay. So let's say you're an adult,
right?
Why don't you just eat?
I mean, by age, I am, I suppose.
Right. You get to make decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
Why don't you just eat pie all the time? Why isn't pie just the only thing you ever eat?
Because it's unhealthy.
There's ramifications that come with just there's consequences.
Yeah.
A lot of times people see religion as Christianity as this, like, oh, it's just too many restrictions. I just don't want to be afraid of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the way I kind of view it is instead of just like this rule book that you have to follow, I kind of view it more as like hey, this is a guide because I want to give you the best life you can possibly have.
Right.
So here's your guide. And in giving your life to Christ and being redeemed and free from the burden of the sins that the things you've done wrong in life, like I've even given you an out. Like I want you to live because God wants us to live our best life, and He's given us the tools to live our best life.
Right. And
by disobeying what He's saying, it's not necessarily in the same sense of like, you know, but I just kind of see it in the same way of like, oh my gosh, there's so many rules. I just want to eat pie all the time. You're just ignoring the consequences that come with a disobedient life.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that you are, and so you're viewing, quote unquote, the structure and the guides and the rules that God created, instead of as it being a guidebook for you to live your best life. You're looking at it as something that is preventing you from being able to eat pie every day.
So to back up a little bit, because you talked a little bit about healing.
Yeah, I went from, sorry, I just talked for
and you're
half
good.
an hour.
You're good. I was waiting for you to that was a great point. Great point. But I want to back up to the healing thing, because we talked a little bit about the psychological healing, spiritual healing, all those things, and we try to keep them exclusive from one another.
Right.
And here was kind of a light bulb that's happened in the last week since I've kind of, re-Christianized myself. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's we would say rededicated, but something along that same line. Yeah.
Anyway, something that came across that just popped in my head because I was thinking about the topic today and like what we were thinking about, and actually on the drive up here is when this kind of light bulb came on, and I thought about when, because the question that always came up in my head was when there is possession and demonic influence in the Bible, a lot of it looks like a psychological disorder. It looks like bipolar. It looks like schizophrenia. It looks like those things. And yet Jesus was able to cure these people. But the Bible, the wording in the Bible isn't that he cast out the demons. It isn't that he healed them. It's both.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, Jesus solved this affliction. It says that he healed them. And so it makes me wonder, because the Bible, a lot of these stories are very anecdotal. They're very compressed to the witnesses. How much psychology went along with the spirituality in healing these people that had their mental health disorders? They didn't have words for it.
I'm going to have to think into that.
You know what I'm saying? But the wording of it, I thought was interesting that he said that in there they talk about healing.
Right.
They don't talk about they talk about blessings, they talk about all those things, but they use the word healing, like a medical healing. And so I wonder if almost like he was just on the level where he understood that bridge between psychology and spirituality, that bridge between mental health and demonization, and he was bridging that gap and healing them completely, not just halfway. And it makes me think, as humans, why can't we continue to do that?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Why does somebody just go to a psychologist or just go to a minister? Why don't they go see both?
Yeah.
I
think they should. Yeah. I've wrestled with pursuing my psychology degree. It's my undergrad at Shadron. Right. I've wrestled with pursuing, like, if I wanted to get my master's degree, do I want to get a master's degree in something psychology related or something ministry related? And I've actually felt like, for my purpose in doing ministry on the college campus, just because the sheer number of psychological issues that we see is pretty much equal to the number of spiritual, like, demonic issues we see. Yeah. Just being real.
And they're not exclusive to one another.
And I've seen both. I've seen and we've had I've seen people fall out in anyway, moving on. And so it's like, do I pursue the education in the ministry side or the psychology side? And I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp of the ministry side. And so I've leaned more towards pursuing the psychological side. And this will be when the boys are probably in school, so that I have a little more time to actually continue my education on that.
Right.
But I've been looking into programs, figuring out what school I'm going to go to and all that stuff. Like I'm planning on continuing that education, but I'm leaning more towards the psychology side, because I already feel like I provide a pretty good service when it comes to casting out demons.
Yeah.
I'm missing a little bit on the counseling side. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I would pursue that, because I want to be, honestly, like when we listened to that episode I recommended to you of the Exorcist Files, where the guy is actually like he like teaches psychology at like Harvard or something like that, and he's a Catholic priest. And he's straight up saying, and then this guy who is the one of the quote unquote leading schools of thought on psychology for our nation.
He's written books.
He's the one of the like cornerstones of our current American psychology.
Yeah.
Is also a Catholic priest who casts out demons.
Right.
And he has the conversation about both. And absolutely, I agree with you. I think, and again, going back to when people would give their life to Christ back in the early church, they would give their life to Christ, be baptized, and be exorcised.
Right.
And I think that recognizing that just because somebody acts perfect and normal doesn't mean that they're not struggling with demonic demonization.
Right.
Because I have met some kids that when everything looked perfectly normal in their life, they were happy, successful, whatever. And when I began praying for them, it manifested.
Right.
For lack of a better way to put it, I don't want to go too dark on this episode because I feel like this is really psychology focused. I don't want to focus on the demonic side.
Yeah.
But praying for them, they manifested that demon, and that demon was just like reactive.
Yeah.
I've had that experience.
Right.
Caught me off guard. And then I've had students that seem like they're demonized, and I'm praying for them, and then I have a conversation with them, and I find out that that hey, they have this mental health thing that's going on in their life, and they're very open about it, and they have the conversation, and I don't get the sense that it's spiritual. I don't feel like it's a demon. I feel like it is very, and discerning is so important in my job,
right?
But I also, there's respect and discerning and ensuring, because if somebody who is going through a mental health issue and I'm like, you're demonized, now I'm adding another level of trauma onto their life.
Yeah.
Because they're viewing, okay, so.
And you could be opening up their thoughts to that and opening up. You could
cause the demonization.
Yeah, interesting.
Because now they're thinking about it and looking for it.
Yep.
And so it's so important for pastors to be discerning when having those interactions.
Right.
Because, again, both sides. Because I've had very normal, very happy, very seem like everything is perfect in their life kids that straight up will manifest when I start praying for them.
Right. Yep.
And then eventually, so cast out the demon from them, whatever. And time moves on, and they look back at that time, and they're like, man, my life changed.
Right.
And you're like, what changed?
Yeah.
Because you seemed so normal, perfect, whatever, if that is a thing.
Right. Interesting.
And they just, and again, a lot of times it goes to that was the moment where their identity shifted or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Or that they were lying and in secret they were actually, you never know.
Right.
What door it opened up. But I have seen both sides of the, again, spectrum on that.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think we got to recognize, more, and I'm realizing more and more that just about everything is on a spectrum. Everything from, I know we've talked a lot about politics lately.
Here we were even talking race
race on a spectrum. I think everything, if we look at it as being on a spectrum, I think we're way more open to conversation. We're way more open to healing and that kind of thing.
So. Yep. A lot of times what I do is when I pray for a student, when the student comes in, let's say on a one-on-one, like an intimate setting,
right?
Or maybe at a service, but it's intimate. It's not everybody is listening kind of moment.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
In that intimate conversation, and they come and they ask for prayer, I'll tell them, hey, just so you know, as a precaution, I will pray as though I'm casting a demon out of you.
Right.
I do this for everyone that I pray for. Just recognize that kind of thing. And everybody I pray for, and some people I feel like I need to explain, some people I don't.
Right.
But I will effectively try to, I almost go into any prayer time as a pastor, I go into it assuming there's a demonization.
Yeah.
But not necessarily in the, I'm not going to, I don't know how to explain this without it sounding weird, but I'm going into it assuming that there's a demonization on my side of things, not on their side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm approaching it as a base level just to ensure a level 0.
Well, you're going in prepared, so so you're not
I don't get caught off guard. Because of the experiences I've had with people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's a base level, and I'm not even suggesting, because some people even just the suggestion of, hey, you might be dealing with a demonization, like there might be a demon affecting you. Their thought process goes to, instead of like, oh yeah, cast this thing out, then it goes to, well, what am I doing wrong that I'm opening myself up to this? And it might not be what you're doing wrong. It might be what you're doing right. The path you're on has opened you up to the enemy wanting to take that away.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been curing some generational curses, you know, some family patterns of alcoholism. Yeah. However, you can call it whatever you want, but those patterns that exist in families, maybe you're dealing with an actual curse, you know, like the
so I got a little story for you. So in this last week, there's been a lot of self-discovery and things happening with you know, my spirituality, my Christianity, things like that. And something I thought was interesting is there was a day where just every temptation, every like thing, it was almost comical how many things were presented to me that were negative, and things that were just negative, and things that I normally I don't have to avoid,
right?
Because it was so ridiculous, all these things. I won't go into detail what they were, but I stopped for a second. I started to get mad, but then I stopped for a second and I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Are you kidding me? I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. It was all day long, and it was so ridiculous. I laughed, like literally LOL out loud, laughed going, and I was just like, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. It's not working. Move on. I was like, it was weird. It was weird. You know, I had this out loud, and I said that out loud.
Yeah.
Just having a conversation with whatever it was that was throwing all of this in front of me, and I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop. Like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Stop. It's weird. And you know,
it's not weird.
And there'll be people that say, well, that's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. But it was not ridiculous. So weird how that happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so, and then next day, nothing. You know, but it was just for a whole day, just all these things popping up that, you know, were just getting in the way of my day. And I was just like, okay, enough, like, stop. I get, this is so ridiculous. Like, I couldn't even be mad about it. It was it was such an attempt at, you know, my happiness and my path, you know. So
absolutely. And we always kind of talk about how our craziest days are always the days of service.
Yeah.
So for church pastors, it's always a Sunday. For me, it's always a Tuesday.
Right.
And part of that could be the stresses that go into the service and all that. But I call baloney on that, because like this last Tuesday, for example, I had more phone calls in one day than I typically have in a 2-week period. And it's on a Tuesday. It's always on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Phone calls from spam, phone calls from people just trying to reach out to me, people, you know, like literally anything and everything, people calling me back, like multiple phone calls, and like just so many phone calls. And I'm sitting in here doing sermon prep, like going over my sermon, trying to like, because I'm trying to make sure that my theology is correct, make sure what I'm saying is backed through scripture and not just my own biases. And I take that stuff very seriously, because I don't want to be, as a teacher,
well, even Courtney, because I had Courtney texted me back.
Yeah.
And said she was like, she was like, it's Tuesday, he's not going to answer you today.
But the dumb thing is, on a normal Tuesday, like not even on a normal Tuesday, just like just normally I'd have seen that and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll take a 5-second break and I'll go ahead and text you back, because you need breaks, and psychologically you need breaks from the stuff you're doing, and so I take breaks. But just the way that the day had even played out and the phone calls I had so many breaks. I was like, I didn't have time to take any more breaks. And because so many people had called that were important things. And it was nuts.
Yeah.
And I literally stopped and I was like, I gotta pray. I gotta call this out.
Yeah.
And I said this, and I say the same thing. But you know what you're doing though? When you do that, and we did an episode on how to cast out demons and anoint oil and stuff like that. But the number one thing that is the most important for us in dealing with evil or demons or anything like that is, especially as Christians, recognizing your identity.
Yeah.
Your identity as a child of God, a beloved, that God so loved you. Like you are loved, you are important to God, like you matter.
Right.
that identity is the number one thing that when life is just a wreck, when ministry is failing, when people are sick, when loved ones pass away, when hardships come, going back to what Paul said in Philippians, thinking of whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever is, remembering our identity in Christ, in God, that we are loved. We are so important to God that he sent Jesus to die on the cross, that Jesus willingly gave up his life for us. Like, we're that important to them.
Yeah.
And embracing and resting in that identity is how we can combat so many things.
Right.
That could come to try to harm us and to point our identity to something else.
All right, I got something I want to share with you. And this is, I've been kind of teasing it to you, for a little bit, that I discovered something, and you probably already know it. So you're probably just going to be like, oh yeah, I already knew that. But for me, it was kind of I had to stop what I was doing, because I was like, this makes so much sense. And I was like, this is so profound. And so God's name, we've talked about it before. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't know what God's name is, whatever. So I was looking at some stuff, and I figured out that in the original Hebrew, do you know what his name was?
You talking Yahweh?
Right. Do you know how it was spelled? It wasn't spelled Yahweh. Yahweh was our Western version of what it was.
It's basically, within its language, but it was basically YHWH.
Right, and that's how it's spelled. And so, and part of the reason that people say you can't pronounce God's name is because you can't say that. There is no voiced consonants in that. Yeah. There's no vowels in it. It's all non-voiced consonants, right? And so when you say it out loud, this is what it sounds like. And so I was like, what? Hold on, time out. And they're like, it sounds like a breath. And so the idea is the first words that you utter on earth is God's name. And the last words you utter before you die is God's name.
Yep.
And see, I knew you already knew that.
No. Yeah, but even knowing it,
very profound. It gave me chills. I was like,
whoa. I already know it, and I'm still getting chills because it's that powerful.
Yeah.
It's that powerful of a revelation. I literally, you can probably see. I'm
how do you spell a breath? And somehow in the original Hebrew, they figured out a way to spell the sound of a breath, and what that represented. Yeah, was like, wow. And whether you're a religious, Christian, spiritual, doesn't matter. That's a powerful idea. That word is the first word you utter when you're born, and the last word you utter before you die.
Yeah,
So that was interesting to me.
Yeah, that's, and the next step for me was always Genesis talks about the God breathed life.
Yeah.
And then Scripture is the breath of God, and the Holy Spirit is basically and it's so powerful. It's literally.
Yeah, because when I saw when I saw the YHWH, I was like, oh, it's Yahweh. And I was like, wait, time out. It's different.
How do you pronounce that?
And why? Here's the other thing we talk about too. Why did it take me this long to discover that powerful of a thing? Why was that not a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, once a month kind of message? Why was that not? Why is this new to me? That's what kind of threw me off. And that's another, when we talk about religion and things like that, that's another thing that I was like, why? Why is that not one of the messages?
I've asked the same question.
Yeah.
Because there's been some truths that I found way later in life that would have helped me to not go through a lot of things. And the only thing that I can think of is that either, it's for such a time as this, like God is like, this is now is the right time to teach you this.
That was my thought.
And then the other aspect of it is that it's not necessarily always that maybe that information was presented to me, But it was at this moment my eyes were open enough to receive what
that could be,
what the truth was and the impact of that.
Yeah.
But you could even combine the two and say that because your eyes are open, that God then revealed it.
Right.
No, absolutely. I remember. Have you heard of laminin? Laminin. There we go.
Yes.
Laminin.
Yeah. It's a protein.
Yeah.
Right. That is. Yeah. It's the Jesus protein.
And its shape is a cross, and it's like, and it's what in the specificity of it is that it holds all things together.
Yeah.
And it's like,
without it, our cells would just fall apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember.
I remember reading that. That was a big one too that hit me.
The revelation of that one, I remembered, and even again, I'm getting chills even just thinking about it, man.
Right.
But I remember when that one hit me, and it hit me later in my faith walk, and it was just like, bro, I had learned about this before. I remember even somebody talked to me about it, but it was like later on, it was like, oh wait, it holds all things together, and it was just like it's shaped. It's if you sprawl it out, it's shaped like a cross. Like that's crazy to me.
Yep.
But it's really a little thing that. Yeah, it's
interesting.
I love it.
Interesting. So don't get so for me to you. Don't get so caught up in the structure you forget to be that inspiration that I know you are.
Yeah.
You're a big inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. And we were talking about just being real. We were talking about how I don't understand, like, why does the enemy like attack me? Like, it's like I'm a nobody here. You know, it's Shadron, like little old Shadron. Who am I?
Right.
I had a former student who listened to the podcast. Shout out. I'm not going to reveal his name. But he reached out and he's like, hey, I was listening to that episode and this story is so good. I almost killed the kid. That
took a turn. Okay, all right.
So we were doing root beer floats and we ran out of ice cream, so we had to run up, and we went up to the kitchen and got for the school at the cafeteria on campus.
Yeah.
And they gave us a tub of butter pecan or like peanut butter brittle or something like that. It was a off flavor.
Not
remember?
Vanilla. Right?
Not vanilla. And so we're putting in the root beer floats, and we hand one to this kid and invite him to come to the service, blah, blah, blah. We're talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to be there tonight. I'm so excited. And I'm getting excited because this kid's going to come, and he didn't show up.
Does he have an allergy?
And I was like, what the heck? This kid didn't show up. Like, and I was pretty upset because I was like, man, this guy was like, he was like, he told me he was coming, and he didn't come.
Right.
And I almost killed him. And he did come the next week.
Oh man!
But this kid reached out and he's like, just thinking about where I'm at in my life and the impact that you had and Chi Alpha had and those friends had.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the impact you've had on these people's lives, because and I don't talk to them very. I mean, I try to do my best to reach out to alumni because like I love every single one. Like legit, this guy, I love this kid. Like no holds barred. Like I love this kid, but I love our current kids. I love and after, gosh, how many years are we doing this? 12 years of doing this. We have hundreds and hundreds of alumni that I love, and it's so hard for me to keep in touch with them because I just can't.
I imagine. Yeah.
And so often what happens is a lot of times when we're doing our like capital, like trying to get our budget raised and stuff, I'm going through my friends list intentionally, and I'm like, dang, I don't want to just always ask these guys for money because I genuinely love these kids, but half the time I contact them is because we're asking for money for Chi Alpha. They're alumni. The alumni should be the people who are investing the most in the ministry because they've experienced the ministry.
Right.
And so it's like I start to feel like all I do is ask these guys for money, but I genuinely love these kids.
Yeah.
And so our relationship is so hard to maintain just because there's so many relationships.
Yeah.
But, but him reaching out, man, it meant so much. And it was just kind of a reminder of like, man, even if I'm not seeing like face to face what the impact is on these guys' lives, like that God is doing something.
Well, and you and I, we live lives of service. We live lives. We're not do our jobs because we're looking for recognition or we're looking to see the change that is happening. We're doing it because it feels good.
Yeah.
We're doing it because we know it makes an impact. Right. We don't always see that impact, and it feels good when, it comes back and people are like, you are a bigger influence than you think you are. And that's very true. I wouldn't argue with that. I don't think of myself as an important influencer but I've influenced hundreds, if not thousands, of students,
right.
And I hope in a positive way, but I mean, so far so good.
Right.
Anybody that said they, I'm in prison and it's your fault.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And it's very thankless, in the world of counseling, whether it's spiritual or psychological.
Right.
I mean,
and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't need, like you said, it's thankless. I'm like, I'm going to do this job whether or not, but I will say, if you're listening to this and you've been impacted by us, like, or even not even us, if there's somebody that's impacted you, that just like, don't hesitate to like, just reach out, let them know you appreciate the impact they had on your life.
Yep.
And so maybe that's kind of our, I guess I don't know, is there anything else you were?
No.
So maybe that could be kind of our closing thing of like, think about it.
To wrap things up.
I do always do this. So when we're talking to our students, I always say, think of the 5 sermons that you've heard. And so if you're not churched very much, think of 5 speeches that have impacted your life the most. I'll give you 5 seconds to think of 5. Go. Okay, stop. Now, think of the 5 people who have impacted your life the most. I'll give you 5 seconds. Go. Stop. How much easier was it to think of the people than the sermons? How much easier was it to think of the people than the speeches, than the moments? It's
way easier.
So much easier.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the impact that you're having in other people's lives. And again, never underestimate the impact that you can have by even just communicating that appreciation to those people who those top 5 people you thought of right then.
Yep.
Reach out. Let them know the impact they've had in your life.
Yeah.
You never know. You just never know where they're at.
Right.
And shout out to that guy. Like I said, I'm not going to say his name just because I didn't ask him for permission to say his name. But, he reached out at a moment where it was big. It was on a day where I was stressed.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy how many times when I reach out, because I'm a very grateful person. I reach out to people all the time, but it's crazy how many times I reach out to somebody to let them know what a big impact they've had on me, even if it seems like a small thing. If you're on my mind, that's significant, and I'll reach out to them, and how many of them it's the right time. It's the perfect time. And they're like, I really needed this, and I don't know, just, it's always the right time, basically, is what I get from that. It's always a good time to reach out and say, hey, you know what? I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we were to combat evil, if we were to combat
imagine how much that stings, to any kind of demonic, evil presence. Imagine how much that stings, knowing that you're reaching out, being grateful for people in those
things. Imagine being a demon and you're like, you've got this guy he's a pastor or he's a school counselor.
He's mine. Yeah.
He's done so much good in his life, but finally I've got him down and he's so far down. And then just a rando student is like, dude, you don't even realize the impact you had on my life. And then they just kind of snap out of it and go, oh yeah, my identity.
Yep.
Or, oh yeah, like,
it's like locking that door.
Yeah. Yep. And then boom, how fast we can destroy the plans that the enemy had,
You know what's funny when you do that? How often that person goes and does that for another person. That happens a lot too. Because I've had students reach out to people they're grateful. It's what activity we do every week. They reach out to like 4 people and they call them during class. Okay. So a lot of times, like, why are you calling me in school? And so we get past that funny little part, and they say their grateful part, and those people go and they turn around and call 4 more people.
That's cool.
And so it's cool. So if you call one person and they tell 2 people, and then those people go and tell 2 people, we figured out it only takes about 12 phone calls to reach, 1 million lives.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
We have
It's crazy.
We have a teaching in our ministry. It's discipleship by design.
Yeah.
And the idea is the impact that one person can make. If he's the most impactful person on earth and he can impact 40 people every year, he can impact 40 people.
Yep.
In 80 years, 320 people or whatever, or 3,200 people. So that's the lifespan of his impact. But if you teach somebody to impact more people, so that one person takes his time and instead of impacting 40, he impacts 2 or 4. We'll say 4. Mm-hmm. He impacts 4, but he impacts them 10 times more to the point where they then can go impact 4 people.
Yep.
And within, if everybody did that, it's within 100 years, the entire world would have been impacted.
Yep.
And yeah, intentionality makes a big difference. But all right. Thank you guys. That was a fun episode. And again, we cry. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all those things. And as Phil says in an Australian accent, don't forget to be biblically accurate best. That was terrible.
That was terrible. Don't forget to order your Dubby.
Be a Bigfoot and join the Discord. And
we appreciate you guys.
We do appreciate you. Each and every single one of you guys.
Definitely.
Legit. Like, seriously, like random people that I've known and they're like, hey, I listen to your show and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? You listen? That's really cool. It's always cool to hear from people who listen. But anyway, okay, bye.
Bye.
Ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?